that's
It
to be
just arrived to my hand,
So
so.
is the work, you said the work to be done, is that
No,
on our
yes,
agenda
yes.
today?
Yes, it is.
We're at,
It happens to do with engineering fees. It happens to do with audit services, more audit services than anything. So you don't want to hear these legal things. I just want that statement, Mayor, that you don't want to hear about that.
I
That's
said you
fine.
should bring it into your report.
That's fine, but it should be done now. I just want you to make that
Councilor
statement and we're
Topaz.
relaying it.
Counselor Topaz, we have a protocol here that states that if you want time on the agenda, you just ask me and you did not, and you surprise everybody with this stuff all the time. If you'd like to use your report for your time, you may proceed then.
We will.
But in the future, if you'd like, you need to check in and ask myself prior to.
You've already described
No,
that. You're not
that's-
going to answer. That was a few months ago. Thank
Counselor
you.
Topaz, that is not true. So what I would like to state out there is, where were you when the mountain blew? 1980, May 18th.
That's not on the
That
agenda.
was something pretty significant. I remember seeing that huge plume go up. You weren't even born yet.
No, 9 years before I was born.
I was 7 years old, and it was very frightening as a 7-year-old, but it was also magnificent that how huge that was. And then it got dark later that evening before it should have got dark. And we were all out by a mask and getting ready for that ash to start falling. It was pretty intense.
the birds were confused.
We are 30 miles as a crow flies from that mountain. And we are named after that. So I think it's definitely significant that I talk about it a little bit. So with that, I'm gonna go ahead and go to our first item on the agenda, which is our second item on the agenda, because we had a postponement. Review proposed updates to engineering fees. Mohammed and Sharon.
I applaud you on your Hollywood debut. Yeah. Thank you.
Yes, it is Public Works meeting.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yay.
Mr. Mayor, City Council, and City Administrator did such a fantastic job with that opening.
I'll give
Videos,
this on camera and they do
a lot of credit. a lot of
job,
credit.
licensing videos.
One video a day until the end of the week, so there's a lot of work and coordination going behind that, and many thanks to our communication and marketing team, they did phenomenal.
The editing takes a longer time.
You just say a few things and then they
Other things.
put it together and it's like, whoa.
Well, good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, City Council. We're here today to talk about the engineering division fees, proposed updates. To walk you kind of through a little bit of what we put here together for you today. We in Public Works like to present you always with the best facts, processes, and best practices before we bring any proposal to you. So with that said, we've invested at least merely 9 months reviewing this, me and Sharon working behind the scene, looking at every single angle in engineering and public works department where we can find efficiencies, loopholes, issues, challenges, and we can work on those to bring our department up to par with our competitors, cities, municipalities. So the engineering fee schedule, the main purpose behind this is just to give you an idea of what we do, what was the engineer's fee for and what does it pay for. It's all focused towards what our work is, right? The design reviews that we do, the public works improvement permitting process, anything has to do with the right of way management, construction management, all these fees comes in from this work that happens on a regular basis in the city. And obviously these fees are critical in supporting the division, right? We're always trying to find creative way to reduce the burden on the enterprise fund, to have an operational division that pays for itself, that can pay for tools, operating supplies. If we need to increase our team members, which we have been operating on 3 members engineering team for the last few years, and you've seen the amount of work that we do and have been done and how much we do for a very small team. With that said, the process that we followed throughout the study to get you to this point today and to discuss these fees between me and Sharon, we will walk you through basically what we've done. We reviewed existing fees across all the cities across from our regional municipalities. We looked at a lot of spots even outside of our jurisdiction, just kind of for comparison size-wise. So to draw some comparison, to draw some baseline, to understand what other places have been doing and where we stand. We looked at allocating these costs and fee services to make sure we are again meeting the minimum baseline with others, so we are sustainable, right? We are behind light years, but we'll get there. And then finally, with the process, we would like to have the outcome is a successful outcomes to update these fees, so we are able to, you know, continue in the management and the enhancement of our department. So the big question comes in is the why, right? By the way, the pink is here because of Councilor Chilton and Sharon, they love this color and we wanted to make sure we have colorful slides for you. But the big question is the why, right? Why are we updating the engineering fees now? Why today, right? Let me walk you a little a trip into memory lanes. First of all, this particular slide you see over here, we introduced in our Public Works annual report not too long ago. And we talked about this big number, $1.2 million lost. Okay, this is real number, council members, Mr. Mayor, that we lost in the city because we did not properly configure our fee permit schedule and even charge for what existing resolutions says to charge and has not been. So, and worse than that is the last time this fee schedule has been updated is it's 18 years ago. So think about this for a second. You thought the master planning was terrible? This is just as bad, maybe worse in my opinion. In 18 years, you go to Starbucks today, let me tell you, 18 years ago, the coffee was 1 cent, today is $10, right? Simple example. You go next year to Starbucks to buy that same coffee is $11, right? These fees apply for everyday life, right? In 18 years, we have not updated any of those. We have not looked at them. We have not done anything. And as you see, the growth, the density, the projects doesn't stop, right? What these fees covers, some of these services that you see over here on this slides are, some of them are chargeable, just like, you know, the right-of-way permits, and some are not, like the blasting permits, public works improvement, etc. On the next slide, this is basically the last time we were able to recover the changes. It was updated in 2003. And pretty much since that time, it hasn't been touched, looked at. Problematic, the least I could say. So the gaps in these fees structured as well. So let me tell you, the city here in St. Helens is built on what? Solid rocks, right? This is one of the biggest challenges for any contractors to come to the city, one of the areas that requires a lot of work. And one of the areas that we heavily missed our fees. It's a loophole, in my opinion, that we missed that should have been addressed. So blasting permits, the process of blasting in the city of St. Helens is rigorous. Takes time, takes many hours from our engineering department to review videos, to review plans, to review the permit. And we have tons of that work here. And guess what? We do not charge for that. In fact, we did not have a blasting permit process at all, which in my opinion, we have the permit, we never have charged, excuse me. I mean, I don't know what to say. I just say this is problematic. Okay, this is an area we should have recovered these costs for the last 18 years. We haven't been charging for that. We have the permit placed, but we're not being charged. So just to give you one example, so other permits like the building permits, we're in charge for that. Every department charged for building permit fees. The engineering had to review all that, and as you know, with 3 people here, we're wearing multiple hats: the director, the operation, the engineer, the city engineer, all between 3 of us. To dig further and to take you into like the line of comparison and what we charge and what we're going to be charging, what we thought was the best is here. Sharon gonna talk to you more about the fee structure and the comparison and where we end up, which is extremely reasonable, by the way. I think it's still extremely fair. However, it would be great to give you.
So the first one is the right-of-way permit fee. And so the right-of-way permit fee is charged for work done in the right-of-way that's affecting the road, the shoulder, sidewalk curbs, ADA ramps, curb and gutter. And usually it'll encompass utility construction, maintenance, repair, pavement cuts. People wanted to put in a new driveway approach or fix their sidewalk. and so forth. So the current fee right now is $50. And so we propose changing that fee to $100 to reflect the current cost of service, which includes reviewing and processing the permit, reviewing plans, reviewing the traffic control plans, and performing inspections for this permit. And the third column, as you can see, we just put in the comparison with other municipalities. So you can see Oregon City, 176. So that average there is about $120 for the right-of-way permits right
Can I
now.
make one recommendation? Just go 2,000 because you're doubling it. Go 2,000 on the part of public improvement.
2,000 for the waive, less than,
For the waive.
Double it, double the waiver fee. Yes, 2,000.
that makes sense, absolutely. I think that's.
Just looking at it.
Yeah, and Mr. Mayor, I mean, if you look at these, we're talking about in 10 years to go from 50 to 100, it's not
Yeah.
still extremely reasonable and within the median of others. We still not on the top, not on the bottom, we're in the middle. So,
The state just frustrates me with all their stuff that they never raise up to. I mean, it's bad, just even for like doing what threshold for construction.
Yeah.
Construction, what doesn't, and landscaping, $600, it's been there forever,
really,
forever. $600.
and let me tell you, someone not doing their job.
And you figure your labor, $600 is not a lot, so. That's a third example. Another third example, even for us, $50 or less, they've been there forever. So,
So the second one is the pavement disturbance fee. So the pavement disturbance fee is assessed to the right-of-way permit fee, and that specifically is an additional fee when the pavement has to be cut or if it's damaged, any trenches that are dug in the city streets or on the sidewalks, if you're boring, digging, or anything that disturbs the pavement. And so the current fee for that right now is also $50. And so we're proposing to increase that one also to $100. And this one we'll have to revisit. It's becoming a really serious issue with pavement patches failing across the city. We've been tracking it. I've been getting complaints from Public Works Operations as well. And so even $100 really doesn't cut it. A lot of cities do a street cut deposit for that type of thing. It just is gonna require a little bit more study, so we didn't include it in this one. But you can see in the comparison, Westland charging $500 for pavement disturbance, Pendleton $50 a square foot, which is quite a bit.
Does it, could that fee also look at the square footage of the disturbance that is to applied to that area?
It could, the way we have it structured right now, it couldn't because we're still following somewhat the structure that's existing. But the plan is to review it and then to change that so that it covers that square footage. Which is, I think, the best way to do it.
Certainly be worth putting an addendum to it, yeah.
Okay,
there's nothing frustrates me more than when either rarely do they build it too high. It's when in 6 months to a year, it's dipped down.
right.
That's just
And
frustrating.
we've had a lot of those, even from utility companies, and so they get the permit and then they're gone, and in a year or less than a year, you got this, this growing pothole in the middle of the street, and then the city has to, we have to bite the bullet for it and add it to our patching project to fix it.
I'd have to be okay with up and even that fee a little bit more.
Okay, we can consider that, and that's the whole today's.
Just because of that fact,
I think that it makes sense though for Sharon to kind of go back to the drawing board and analyze it and then come back to us with a good number, because those numbers that you showed us are pretty different. So understanding the data there, I think before we set a fee
Yeah,
would be important.
because it could be a lot more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're pretty different.
Following what the mayor says, not so much worried about the fee, is we do something, we make a patch on it, seems to be okay. In a year, it's either high or too low. Could there be a stipulation that at so many months after the construction, it must meet the proper levels or whatever?
So one of
That's
the.
okay, let's do it.
one of the things that I've been considering with that is having a warranty associated with the pavement patching, similar to how we do with the public improvement projects, the capital improvement, where every work is warranted for 2 years. And there doesn't seem to be a reason why we can't do it with this.
And that will
And a lot of
guarantee-
cities actually do include that, so they have a warranty, so if it fails, we contact them and be like, hey, the patch that you did associated with this permit, it failed, you come back and fix it.
Okay, now following again on the warranty, 8 pounds of asphalt costs $3 right now. In 2.5 hours, it's gonna be $17. Do we have any way of automatically adjusting these fees depending on material cost or cost of living?
I can answer that. So yes, Council Topaz, so what we're doing at the end of this presentation, we have made it very clear. This will never ever go again for 18 years without being revisited. Will be an annual job for us to do every single year, consider all the factors, economical, even disaster recoveries, just as the COVID, where it disturbed the supply chain. We'll be looking at all that every single year
Okay,
moving forward.
Very good.
Yeah, we cannot oversleep on this kind of stuff because I want to set the department and the city for success even beyond my time. And I'm not here, leadership's not here. That system is in place and will be followed by everybody take over to make sure this doesn't get left over because those are critical part of the business. You just cannot operate a business anywhere. As I said, go to Starbucks. If you still buying a coffee for a cent, I mean, 18 years from now, it will be probably $100 a cup anyway. So you cannot rely on this without constantly revisiting the business.
Cannot our finance director advise us as well and put the red flags up in various departments across the city? You're speaking for your own department that you will do this, but it seems to me like we should have known these kinds of things through, with all our departments of what these would be. So they just don't fall the loss because department heads change.
Correct.
And finance director isn't here always. I mean, that person changes as well. But it's if they have something in writing across the way so they can report to the council and give the council a heads up. You don't have to rely on each department coming in every year and doing this kind of thing. So just in a matter of process, I see it simplified by one person. And that's our finance director giving us at least notice, you giving him notice of what needs to be done. So in his report, he can tell us what's happening so we don't get caught with our pants down again.
Yeah, this
thank
is a good point. I believe it does definitely have to be across the entire departments, all city, right? Every department has their own associated fees and it's important to have that consistency. Excuse me.
Consistency. Yeah.
Thank you. Across and the process to be followed, yes.
Well, we really appreciate you bringing this to our attention.
And we will set the role model for every department to follow, and we're happy to support any department head as well who come to us with questions to also help with the process of.
Do you have any thoughts on that?
Fee schedule is a good place for that, those kinds of things to let these fees will be incorporated into the fee schedule.
I think there is a waiting period for 7 days.
No, because Kathy already has it,
Yeah, and we have to revisit the comments and update based on your comments
Yeah,
today.
so we'll have to
Yeah.
maybe call it then.
Yeah,
That's fine.
Or we could go ahead and adopt it if you want to get it going sooner than later.
And then
then we
just
could
do an addendum.
Revisit little tweaks.
I think we know that the $50 is way too short,
Hmm.
so at least jumping to 100 right away and then going back and getting more data. And then
Hmm.
changing it if need be is appropriate.
The fee schedule is very much a living document that gets amended pretty regularly, but holistically, I don't think there's a full go through from beginning to end each season.
So the next one on the next slide is the plan review one, yeah. The plan review fee for public improvement. So basically the plan review fees cover our staff, which review private development plans, which is required when they are expanding or improving street, sidewalk, curb, storm drainage facilities, water mains, and so forth. So right now, we charge 1% based on their engineer's preliminary cost estimate. So basically, they turn that cost estimate in when they turn in the plans and the permit application. And so the plan review fee right now is 1%. So we're proposing to increase it to 2%. And based on their preliminary cost estimate as well. And so you could see it kind of falls right there in average now with most cities. Gladstone is a 2.5%, Hillsborough is 5%, and Pendleton is 2%.
What level of people do the review? Or will you do it or will a tech do it?
Usually it's myself or Alex that reviews the plans here.
And myself.
And Tim. And so the plan review, it kind of comes to me and Alex, and then Tim also looks at it, and then planning and public works operations will also look at it to make sure that what's being proposed is feasible and is in the best interest of the city.
I will say this one will probably cover the cost because you already have a pre-engineered plan from your engineering that you have to submit to the city, and then you have a pre-engineering or pre-construction meeting with the city after the details, after Sharon's already looked it over and all these guys looked it over and critiqued it, and went back and forth between engineers.
Yeah.
Really, the person doing the project's out of the filter between the engineers. And but that person does have to say to their engineer, I need this, prove this, because
Right.
Sharon's asking for more data.
Yeah, so there's definitely a lot of back and forth
Yeah,
going on until they get it
Yeah.
right.
But I think this one would really, probably pretty close to cover it, but it was cheap at the time.
Yeah.
1%.
I have a different look at this. If you have to do it as compared to a tech, your hourly cost as a PE is a heck of a lot different than as a tech. And the question is that 2% realistic if I have to have these public improvements inspected by a professional engineer?
So I'm trying to understand.
Okay, let's say I have Kathy do this. We pay her so much an hour. She may not know anything about it, but we just took her a course and threw it on when we were charging this review. If I have you do it, your training is a lot different than Kathy's training. And it's kind of a industry standard what professionally as engineers get per hour. Are we using your rate when we look at this, or we just say, well, let's throw a number out?
Well, we're using an average rate for our engineering staff. And so I understand what you're saying about using a tech, but for the plan review, you really want our department to look at it, because there's just certain things that we do different than other cities, and you just have to be able to look at the plans and know that this is not the right catch basin. We don't use this in the city, or this is not the striping pattern that we use, and stuff like that.
What I'm hearing though, that's more than 2%. If I've got to have professionals looking at it,
Because true civil engineers in Oregon are the only licensed in Oregon are the only ones who can submit the plans to the city in the first place. It has to be stamped.
that's right.
And
I want
then-
someone equal to
But it doesn't have to
the.
be reviewed by a stamped engineer.
Okay, but it doesn't have to be reviewed, is what I hear. You saying that somebody could do it as staff.
I think it's not
The way
required.
you guys do things, you would really like to have the eyes on it.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely would have to have eyes on it anyway, because we just want to make sure, when you stamp it and you give the builder something, and then they start building something, and be like, hey, we don't use this kind of pipe for our storm. Well, if we already stamped approved for construction, then we're kind of in for a battle now.
Don's got
Yeah, I just
something.
want to, if we zoom out a little bit, this is very much a cost recovery model. It's intended to kind of cover every situation, and it's not gonna be perfect. There's gonna be
Right.
times
Exactly, it's
Yeah.
it's an umbrella.
Percent of a very small project may not work, or if it's
Correct.
$1 it might be too much.
It balances up over the type of project, because some projects takes me half an hour, some takes a week.
Hmm.
And these are highly specialized plans, not everybody can look at it and understand it. Very, in fact, you have to be a civil engineer background or a technical construction background in order to review that, right?
Can you give
And-
me examples of some of the plans that would fit in this category? Like
Yeah,
for what type
millions.
of projects?
Yeah.
Yeah, like, I'm Ken, my project, 9th Street, at Tualatin, or, Wyeth, 9th and Wyeth, 9th, 8th and Wyeth, actually. We had to have, engineer draw up a fire hydrant with, we had to have also check valves put in place. The size of the pipe, what the pipe actually is, you use poly for, a 2-inch water line. That's what we ended up using. We used 6-inch, just regular green sewer pipe with clean outs, showing where the clean outs were and all topoed and showing those different grades and showing the depths of that the pipe will meet the minimum or maximum requirement for it to be in depth. That's the type of stuff that they review. And that would be, if we had to have curbs up there, it'd be like curbs and depths of the
And
curb in the
street.
sidewalk, because the curb is actually deeper than a sidewalk. It's complicated, but it is. Yeah,
Simply, any project is done as simple as a curb or a sidewalk or a major riverwalk, all these falls under this, right? The difference, you get either a set of plans of 5 sheets versus 200 sheets versus 1, and the complexity, if you look at it just from a plain point, like an average person goes, well, what is this line? What is this line? Each line means something, and the dimensions and the standards of design that meet those, right? If they're not designed to spec, for example, use simple example, I can tell you if mistakes happen. You'll see on the plan, a 2-inch pipe going through a column. On the design, it shows like, okay, this is a clear path, but in reality on the field, which you have to do the pre-construction and the construction management team, evaluate this design. When we look at it, well, you cannot put a 2-inch line through this because there's a column. That means you have to take a column, structural integrity, etc. You need a clear path. So these kind of issues that we review, and you have to understand what symbols mean, and there is a legend I will explain, but the complexity of the state requirement, federal, sizes and all that is what really civil engineers do. Like,
So I gotta give you one case in point, my first street project down the road. I think several builders were looking at that building to remodel it, do things, and the sewage line was suspect because it went to the river.
Yeah.
And then it made a 90-degree bend and went underneath some buildings over to Cowlitz Street. And that's a long ways. That's a huge sewer line, and no wonder it was leaking, and no wonder it was. So those builders took it on their own to look at replacing that line and put in a figure. And when I had that building, I simply went to our staff, and they knew that that line could be just put out towards out to First Street, rather than going all with their local knowledge. Why not do this? Why not just go 50 feet or 40 feet rather than 240 feet? And so just that kind of knowledge within our city is so valuable, I think, to builders who could come in and talk engineering, from the get-go. Fortunately, I did. And so saved me a lot of monetary money, a lot of value or whatever. And that sewer line was done efficiently and effectively. And Doug Morton lived happily ever after. Anyway, that's my story. So I got one. I thought I'd follow up with one. Yeah.
I give you a lot of credit, leadership team, not. And
You don't want my story.
Oh,
We've heard yours.
And just one last,
One's downhill.
I think John summed it up really well, that
yeah,
about the cost recovery and it being the kind of overall cost, and that's what that percentage is.
And we're gonna let you guys move along.
Yes, got it.
For some time. So go ahead.
So the next one is the public improvements construction permit fee. So this is the permit fee once the plans are approved and stamped for construction, approved for construction by the engineering division, then this, we currently are charging 2% for the construction permit fee based on the engineer's final estimate of public improvements. So we're proposing to increase that to 3% based on that same final cost estimate. And as a comparison, I've got Hillsborough, Pendleton, and Silverton up there. And so we're just around average in that cost structure there.
I was looking at the cost per square foot of our police station versus police stations in Cincinnati and 5 or 6. Oregon is twice the square foot cost pretty much of states. But so this is based on an Oregon cost per square foot for construction.
Yeah, all of our costs are based only for costs here in the state.
would love to drive the cost down, however, cost of timber here is different.
Yeah, I know, but as I say, that was a surprise how high Oregon's costs are.
It's expensive.
Yeah, we have a true lack of trees in Oregon here, so that's why timber's so high.
Don't like to cut trees.
So I'm gonna go into fees for these are proposed fees. So these are services that the division has been doing for years and have not been charging for. So this first one is a fee for additional plan reviews at $120 an hour. And so basically, this is for excessive plan reviews. So right now, the fee structure that we've included for that plan review includes 3 plan review iterations. And so after that 3rd iteration, then this fee would kick in. And this is just an incentive so that when they turn in plans, that they turn in well-designed plans. Because we've had in the past where we've had to go through like 4 or 5, maybe even 6 plan reviews. I mean, the plans were just awful, you send it back, and then it's really, really a waste of time. And so this is basically an incentive that, you know, let's get some good plans in and turn it in, and so everybody, no one's time is wasted. And that's what this is for.
Totally makes sense here.
I'll call it accountability more than incentive because 3 times is a very generous offer at no cost. And then what happens is, you know, contractors get sloppy, they don't update per the comments from the city, they ship it back to you, charge you for that, you know, and it's ridiculous. It becomes like not a professional service, you know.
And you can see the cost comparison. I mean, Ben charges $400 for each one. Forest Grove is $143 an hour, and Silverton, after the 2nd review, starts charging $75 an hour.
Yeah.
So-
We are still extremely
What is the
reasonable.
cost per hour of a civil engineer with a PE
An hour,
an hour?
40 something, 45.
Might be a little more than that now, it takes one up a little bit.
That's almost a carpenter at 45.
Yeah.
Well, depends if you look at it from a contractor standpoint or the city standpoint, right? The hourly rate different when you are a contractor versus.
Yes.
For free is better, but the question is, if the going professional rate for an engineer as a consultant.
Oh, yeah, professional rate is probably a lot more than that.
If it's,
195 is the.
yeah, that's what I was thinking of. If you wanna be a pain in the neck, give them a real engineer and a real cost.
True.
And you give them a real engineer.
We're trying to be reasonable, you know, and with the comparison, we're
You are
still coming.
being reasonable, you're saving time because you're getting him to do it right, so you don't have to waste yours.
Exactly. We are nice at the city too, you know. We can go 400 if we really have to, but it's a first step, so we didn't want to kind of push too hard the first iteration of this fee schedule. As we move forward, we'll definitely
And most plans we get are not gonna
exceed.
The 3.
exceed.
So what is the current? the current price.
Or,
You're
Zero
proposing
now.
$120, correct?
Depends
there's
on-
no current price, we
There's no
haven't.
current price.
been
We haven't been charging for
charging
it.
any.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
I know, thank you very much, yes,
Thank you.
yes, so the price is zero today.
So, but it is.
Talk about all,
It is going up to 3% for improvements and 2% for
Right.
civil engineering.
think about it, go to Starbucks every day, free cup of coffee.
That'll cover the cost.
Nice, right?
on it.
That's crazy.
So the next one is the fee for building permit services. So this is an interesting one. Right now, the engineering division, we do a lot of building permit review with the building permit. We look at the site, we do the SDC fees, we do a lot of inspections, and we have been charging $0. I've never been charged before.
It's in
And
every
when I
department.
looked at the amount of inspections, Tim has done over just over the past 6 months, he's done over 200 inspections for private development that it's just money, it's just
Again, that $1.2 million.
lots of revenue, lots of staff time on that. And I reviewed this also with the building department, so this fee of $320 would be for a flat fee when we have to review a building permit and do inspections for it, and that includes up to 3 inspections as well, and including the final inspection. And then you can see in the comparison, that's kind of right about average, just a little bit, yeah, about average for
Again, currently, it is.
0.
Thank you.
I feel like
I was gonna say,
Tell a short
John,
story.
what the heck,
Please.
man?
So I'll share a story of 2 cities that I worked in. One of them was, started off in King County, Seattle area, booming, busy, small city. We didn't have an engineering staff. We actually contracted with engineering to do our engineering services. And everything was charged. We paid, they deposited funds. It was the council's mindset is because they had to, they couldn't afford not to.
Pass it along.
Was we're passing 115% of the cost of any contract service we need to get development happening in this community onto the developers. And it worked fairly well. It was, and there's so much development pressure that if somebody didn't want to pay it, there was somebody right behind them that would. And then, years later, moving out of the metro area into a community where they wanted growth, where there wasn't any growth happening. It was in any kind of fee or charge that was on developers was perceived as being
Yeah.
as being
North
not-
Bend, Coos Bay, couple
here.
this week.
I mean, I
Yeah.
think here too,
Yeah.
it's that there's perception that anything the city charges a developer is gonna drive development away.
Away.
So, and we're feeling the pressures of growth right now. The tide has changed and the tolerance for developers to be able to
I can,
burden those fees is okay at this point. So maybe not 100%, but
Mr. Walsh, I can guarantee you this, if a developer coming here to do a Gable Road project and gonna worry about $320, let me tell you, I don't want to be. So, this is a dot in the ocean comparing to what real costs out elsewhere.
totally agree.
And it's been $3.99 for the last 18 years. So, yeah, I get it, but that's not a reason to drive anybody out. This is a must, and as you mentioned.
That's kind of a spectrum of.
Yeah, makes sense. No, thank you for sharing. Appreciate that. Great.
So the next big one, probably the biggest one, is the blasting permit. So we do issue blasting permits in the city. As everybody know, we have rock in St. Helens, probably the best rock in the state and the hardest rock. And so we issue blasting permits. We have never charged for the blasting permits. And so the reason why we put this one on here is when we looked at the amount of staff time involved in reviewing blast plans, reviewing the pre-blast survey, doing the compliance inspections, reviewing hundreds and hundreds of blast videos. The cost is staggering. And we have blasting going on. I mean, at Gable, Greystone blasted. I mean, it's just been, this has been a big giant sand pit almost for
Again,
this
it's-
one.
if you're asking for the number, it's zero.
And this one is 0, so we're proposing a $1,200 flat fee for the blasting permit. And as a comparison, you could see, I mean, it's still on the low end. Westland charges $1,500 plus $2 a cubic yard of rock that they pull out. And Gladstone is a $5,000 charge and $2,000 after the first 2 inspections.
Think about this, we're still
Gladstone
extremely
feels like a
conservative.
little overkill, but.
Super.
I don't think that's such a bad idea. I mean, I see some of these cubic yards that get moved around that are, I don't think it's completely a bad idea. It's gotta be trucked.
Cause the one blasting permit covered like the whole ground, so like, for example, the project. I
What's
was-
the size that?
It's different sites, so it'll be, you know, different sites,
One
so,
feet up.
yeah.
1 feet for all.
Research the cubic yard at Westland and why they did that, will you?
Yeah.
Do we have the help of a state geologist that specializes in blasting?
Well, we have to reach out for the Department of Land, Dugami, I believe it's called, where if you are disturbing anything above, I believe it's 1 acre size, this is when we reach out and require their blessing before we can.
No, I was looking for technical help on the blasting alone.
We don't blast, it's.
I know, but you're gonna have to review it.
We will review, correct.
Yeah, and I was just hoping you had someone to look over your shoulder, and if there was, do we have a cost that we have to pay the state for this extra inspection? If we don't have,
The state doesn't inspect it,
okay, so we
so
don't
if
have
it was the city that was doing the
The
blasting.
blasting is different. yeah.
But, okay, so we don't have another cost, it's just us.
Yeah.
Okay, what happens?
It's basically us administering the permit, making sure that they're following our code and complying with basically putting the blast mats on there and then the seismic monitoring and whatnot.
Do we have to, in any of these cases, engage the US Department of Interior because of whatever?
I don't think so.
Okay, so we don't have any extra costs typically.
No, not on our end.
Okay.
It's just-
So,
Okay, so let's just go ahead and let them move on. If we have any questions, I'm not even gonna interrupt, I promise you that.
The good news, we're done. So, thank you. Sorry, I went a little, we want to give you all the details to understand the history, the memory lane, where we were, why are we here, where we're going in the future, right? So, Council President, you have a question?
I look like I have a lot of questions, so
Okay.
at this point, no.
Okay, yeah, last slide, I promise. So where we going in the future, Mr. Mayor, Council President, and council members? So we talked about this district one council topaz. We will be revisiting this schedule on an annual basis now to stay in compliance, city baseline across our entire state. And look at these every year, same time at the end of the year, and go into deep dive into the costs, the permits and where they are and elsewhere. We're also gonna be looking at other type of permitting that I think that are critical that we have not implemented, but just, you know, to give you a little idea of some of the permit violation fees that we don't charge. For example, last week, we discovered a resident who have decided to make a great concrete disturbance project in their driveway, right on top of our sewer line, that not knowing what's going on there, they started the work. Not even permit, not even fees, no, so we issued a stop order, something like that, example is correct, right? You cannot just go disturb, you know, half an acre and
How did
then.
you discover that?
A retired city employee lives right next door to him.
Like, oh,
Well,
Basically, a phone call unexpected, say, hey, someone is making a major project here, like, what, what's going on? We go inspect, and I'm like, wow, it
Yeah.
was a major.
It was pretty big.
You cannot do this kind of work because there is the issue of all this, right? Cutting a power line, sewer line, storm line, main, etc. So this was not something that is pleasant. However, today, we don't have any, say, violation fee. So if someone doesn't have a permit, we want to be able to address that maybe. Okay, you need to get a permit, but it's not just as simple. It's like you drive without a driver license, you get caught, guess what? You get a ticket. If you do it again, you go to, you know, court, whatever. You cannot bypass these major permit policies because you have to address them one way or another. And we're not taking obviously anybody in trouble, but there has to be a process, a permit violation in place where we can issue a stop order, enforce it, and recover costs if there is needed, so he can go get that permit and work us. So this is one of the areas that, again, not addressed today, we have not addressed it here, so we didn't overload you with a lot. But it will be coming down the pike, down the road, and, you know, other permits like road closure fees, right, we will charge it. We are very nice here, we do everything for free for everybody.
Wow.
I would love to go eat at restaurants for free and drink coffee for free and have gas for free. I wish I can, but I can't, so we cannot provide all this stuff. Again, it's basic essential of engineering division operations. With that said, thank you so much for your time, and we are open for questions.
Okay, who's eligible for questioning the permits and asking for a possible deduction? Did they come to the council? Did they come to you? How is that process going to work where someone feels that, oh, we gotta take another look at this fee? I don't think it applies to me. Who do we go to then? Do we go to the council or do we go to you first? How does a person work through the system?
Great, well, the easy answer, first of all, we are open. Me, my team, 24/7 for any questions through any process, any guidance. We're extremely transparent and we're happy to help people understand, right? When it comes to decision making, obviously, if this is adopted, that has to become city leadership discussion, and we are here to support your direction. Any way it goes, and work with our citizens, community to address any specific cases, right? Any fee waivering, any changes through the city council.
Thanks.
Yeah, so they would have the ability to, if it meets the criteria, say, yeah, okay, I guess you're right.
Sure.
But if they said, no, we're right, they can bring it to the council and then we hear their case.
We've waived a sidewalk fee for.
We have,
Right.
and
And there will be these cases, and we're open again. Every case is different, you know, and we're.
I think the road closure is something that actually needs to have a fee on it. I'm glad to hear you guys are saying something, even though, you know, it's been a long history that you could close any street, have a block party, but there has to be, somebody has to type up, has to actually send out notice to all there has to be, and somebody has to come put a barricade.
Correct. Barricades, I tell you.
Yeah, so
we
I
have
think there
stretched
definitely
them.
needs to be a fee there.
One
for sure.
exception, 4th Street sledding.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, no, that's
You have to
us.
have that. That has to cover
That's a
that.
call from the council or the mayor saying, please shut down Fourth Street.
Yes, so we can go
Yes, and
sledding.
they normally do it
Yeah.
without leaving a
That's
phone
the
call.
link, yeah.
No problem.
Any more questions?
Good job.
No, thank you guys.
Yes.
This needs to happen now,
Yeah.
so thank you.
Thank you very much.
I hope this sets a precedent for other departments as well.
We're here to support. Just let us know.
Good work, Mohammed and
Thank you.
Sharon.
Thank you very much. And, happy Public Works Week.
Mhm.
Thank you. Yeah, please look at the video and enjoy.
Going out weekly on Facebook, by the way.
Oops. All right, so our next item on the agenda is reviews proposed bench donation for McCormick Park. Dog Park. And so I imagine we have pictures we're gonna put up there? No?
There's no pictures.
Who's running this show? I have no name. Who let the dogs out?
It's for the council to review.
Well, I think, okay, it was in our packet. I didn't look at that part of it. I would typically, we have a standard for benches, and if it meets the standards, I don't have any issues with it.
Kyle by Jerry Allen. Memorial bench.
And the city does have a standard that has to be, see affixed to 2.5, 2.5 to 6 affixed to the bench.
Do you want me to read the detailed description out loud so you guys know what?
Sure.
bench is for? Okay.
Please, Councilor.
A memorial bench for my beloved late wife who lived and devoted her life to the St. Helens community from 1985 to 2015. She fought breast cancer for 12 years and passed away on August 11th, 2021. I would like to have a bench of same design and size as is used currently, that is sturdy, punctual and lasting. Also, there will be a place to commemorate her memory.
Oh, a plaque,
So 2.5 inches by 6 affixed to the bench.
yeah,
Okay.
2.5 inch by 6 inch affixed to the
Little
bench.
plaque on there,
Yeah,
okay. He would like to have it at McCormick Park. That would be his first choice because of many family and church outings she enjoyed there. He's wondering if it's can be professionally installed. I would like to have it installed before August 11th, if possible.
I think
This was heard before the Parks Commission.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Yeah, they came to the Parks Commission and asked the Parks Commission for blessing, and overwhelmingly, the Parks Commission said yes. And where that could be would be pretty much up to the council. And I interjected, and I believe at that time, I said, and our park supervisor would know the best place to put that for maintenance. Because if someone else says, oh, the park bench should be right here, and it becomes a little bit wet and whatever, then you can't mow around it or whatever.
Yeah.
The park supervisor knows the best of where benches could go. And so I kind of left it up to that, and if we could make that recommendation to give that to Tori and let him talk to these people and say, okay, are you happy with this place? Or are you happy with this place? So I can't see the council making a decision like right now, put it in this place or put it in this place, but I think it's staff's decision to work with the people who want to put it in and collect the fee for that. I know that years ago that we had a fee for that. And I don't know what's happened to that as well. Because there has to be concrete poured. There's a maintenance issue that's going to take go into accordance over the life of the bench. And what is the life of the bench? Is it 20 years? Is it 10 years? And then who replaces it? Is it the city's property then to replace that? Or is it absolutely a lease on that bench? So the city leases it and it runs out. When it runs out, the bench goes away, if it rots away or whatever. And in that time, it was 50 years or 20 years, because we don't want to hurt feelings. We want everything in writing as much as possible to, in terms of the cost of the bench and all what's required. So,
My take on it is if they're wanting to donate a bench and want to put a plaque on it, that's perfectly fine, but it belongs to the city.
yes,
And the city could at any point in time remove that bench as it sees fit.
They've really already said that, Rick. They said, per advice of the city, that really covers everything.
Yeah, and I'm sure it's written in our.
I don't think there's really any
I'm sure it's
problem.
already there, Doug, yeah, those are all great questions.
it is,
I'm
it
sure they're
is,
already
yeah,
there.
it's a part of that.
Yeah.
And so,
And I know our guys will check. Even if they do the work, we'll check and make sure that it is done properly.
yeah, and so there needs to be communication to the family if that goes away. If the city says, no, we're doing other kinds of things, and then open up any other opportunities to that family as well.
I think it's a great way to memorialize his wife. He wants to get it in. I think we should approve it. With a head nod.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Tonight's meeting.
Yeah, okay, we'll do it.
Staff.
Okay, let's go on to our next item. Review request for proposal for audit services. Matt,
Yeah, just here to answer any questions.
I think it's a great idea.
Well, at the last meeting, you directed staff to come back with an RFP for audit services,
Yeah.
following best practices to go out
I
for
think-
RFP every 5 years. So
I mean, if our current people meet what we require, but I think it's a great idea to not ever get too accustomed to one. Yep.
I had one question. There's a list of things that were gonna be followed. I think it's on page 40, group C. And I would like to somehow see in this audit system, places, I mean, audit where we get rents, where we have work salvage for us, permits and fees. I'd like to have what I'm calling scheduled incoming monies and notifications, so we have notifications of delinquent fees also put into this audit system. So if we lease something, do we get paid on the month? Expenses like legal expenses to lawyers and where we have to pay out legal fees. I would like that in the audit also.
It's not already in the audit?
What would the auditors be looking at?
Well, we're trying to, like, for, let's say we're leasing out something and they're supposed to be paying us $500 a month every month, and they're not paying us. I'd like to know that we're not getting paid.
Sure, but isn't that something that would be handled?
Yes.
Yeah, that would be an agreement between the leasee and the leaseor, which would be the city and whatever.
I would still like the accountant to tell us, because a lot of times we don't get all these details. Hey, 4 of our leasers paid everything once, 3 months behind.
If there are errors or something missing as far as lease payments or rental payments, that would be at the discretion of the finance director currently to inform the city administrator of those missing payments, and that has been done in the past, and all those previous payments for the most part have been rectified, if I recall.
I would still like that documented by an outside source that in fact you did the job. So if anybody says Matt didn't do the job, I'm gonna say, yeah,
Well, I'd like
the auditor has said he did the job.
I would just like to, I think that, to come in here under personal agenda and ask for stuff that is available and it's not being hidden. But to make it seem like there's a conspiracy to hide things from Counselor Topaz because he brought this up, and it's very easily to know that you're referring to ACSAP over there.
No, I got,
No,
no,
that's- Counselor Topaz, it is.
no, it isn't.
That's exactly what it is.
You remember I mentioned salvage?
Because you brought it up time and time again. I got other counselors shaking their head, yes, that agree with me, Counselor Topaz.
No, let's go to, we have somebody doing salvage work, so
So
removing stuff. How much of the stuff is
if
going
there
to
was any
scale?
missing money, an audited services is gonna catch it. What we're talking about here today is going with a RFQ or RFP for audited services. That is
And I
the audit,
wanted this in
not,
the possible services that would be in the
that is not
RFP.
even part of the discussion though.
It should be, is what I'm saying.
No, it shouldn't be. That is not part of the ask in an RFP for audited services for the city of St. Helens.
Mayor, if I can add as an option, if Councilor Topaz is open to the idea, when the council approves the audit scope of services, that would be an opportunity for you to discuss as a council what any additions you wanted to see on the audit report. And you could vote as a council if you wanted to add certain services in addition to the already basic financial statements, contract, and regular audits.
What I'm saying now is I'd like to put that in now in the RFP as compared to after we give it to somebody.
Up to you.
Okay, that's fine. That's all I'm bringing up.
Is that typical of cities to do?
I would say no. But there are extenuating circumstances in every city where there may be something specific that you want the auditor
Absolutely.
to look at.
And that's
And you
it.
can add that into the scope of
That's why you have
services.
them there.
Yeah, you add that into the scope of services for whatever their hourly.
That's in the review our annual budget, make sure our financial director has spent all the money where he said he's gonna spend it.
And just like the city council directed to do the policies and procedures review for tourism,
Yep.
you could do the exact same thing for specific leases and rental agreements and everything with the city. So you could go down.
And again, though, it's only at a cost. Only at a cost, and auditors are probably $150 an hour. And then having to go through every little detail at $150 an hour can get very expensive. So maybe we should audit those expenses too, on top of the legal expenses.
Yes, exactly. I mean, that's what I'd like to have it so the public knows where we're getting money, where we're spending money.
Our stuff is completely available to the public.
You can get it from the finance
Yep,
director at any
point
time
in time.
and then share it if you.
I have asked publicly and I have been taken to the ethics board for asking, so don't say anytime.
Ethics board for asking.
Back in
Because
two
you're-
thousand nineteen,
Because of your conduct of your approach is
2019,
why you were taken to the ethics commission.
2019.
So Counselor Topaz, I would just like. to
The ethics
remind you-
commission didn't, and what did the ethics commission
I would
report?
like to remind you what was, the allegations were your, the way you approached and asked was not okay. As a matter of fact.
What did the ethics commission
This
report?
goes into another thing that I do want to bring up, and we're gonna discuss it.
We're going sideways.
So I know, but this goes into the Counselor Topaz censure was up on the 14th, and we have to review it, and here we go with this right here.
Tomorrow, actually.
Actually, it's tomorrow, yes. And here we go with why that was given to you, is this council decided as a whole that our staff did have merit. Their complaints had merit. And this council found that to be true, along with our legal attorneys, when we came up with this censure.
What was the
So-
report from the ethics commission?
So,
We each got a
that
copy
being
of it
said-
as I gave it to you.
That being said, that's where we're at today, Counselor
That's
Topaz.
fine. That's fine.
So, what we have on our agenda today, because we are getting out of order, is right now we are talking about putting out an RFP for audited services because we've been going with the same company for a while and it's best practice to change it up. Just so you don't get in that rut and familiarity.
It's opening the door for another agency.
Yes.
review.
Yeah,
Doesn't mean
exactly.
you can't stay with the auditing firm if you decide that they're the
The
best
best,
option,
the best
or
option.
they're the only applicant.
Yes.
Yeah. One question, if I may also add, is typically we want to make sure to include the council if they want to be involved in that decision-making process. And ultimately, it all comes back to the council, but would either or any of you want to sit on the rating committee? I assume it's going to be John, myself, maybe one other person. But if any of you would like to sit on that rating committee, before we bring a recommendation back to the council, I want to make sure that's an opportunity for our council members to.
I'll take the time to do that. Yeah. I didn't see nobody jumping at it, so I figured.
It's an exciting RFP.
It was like, oh,
I'm interviewing police officers, okay? I've already put my time in.
well, yeah, I would, might be.
But you're the last one left, and I had the library.
Okay, Matt, I think we're good on that. Discussion regarding reappointment of Chris Iverson to be city representative of the Planning and Learning Center and directors, board of directors, so.
Thumbs up.
But I think just a clarification too, he's not the city, so we have a couple.
Yes,
I'm one, and so he's,
Yeah.
but yeah, he is being appointed by the city.
Thumbs up.
You're on that already, right?
Yes,
Right.
he's actually the city appointed.
You're city appointed.
Well, and
They both are.
that's also Chris Iverson is.
There was two, I
Well, So
remember.
there's two, so I am currently one, and he is, Chris will be replacing Margaret.
Okay.
Margaret is-
You have any recommendations of opening that up to staff as well as council?
I think we had, this was discussed at the Columbia Learning Center Board of Directors meeting a few months ago. And I thought we had some conversation
We did.
about this in this
Yeah.
group.
We did.
And that we were
Recommending that we go
recommending to
forward.
go ahead, so I. We had the discussion, so.
So for tonight.
Yeah, yeah.
I just want to say that I served on that board with him and I recommend it highly. I just want to make certain that we look around our city staff as long as it is a city recommended thing. It just isn't totally rubber stamp to say, yeah, okay, without any kind of search or given any other people opportunities. And I think Chris is extremely credible.
Next item is review salmon timber sale bid document. Why do we need a salmon?
Your Salmon Creek.
Thinking about the salmon right now.
Just torturing you with
The tree looks like.
I haven't even caught while you've been sitting here. My other.
Probably at least 3 or 4 in the last hour.
Right,
And you got none of them.
Nope. I've actually gotten 2 since our last meeting.
River open today.
This for you.
So we had 2 or 3 cuts available, or 2 that we
yeah, this is, I talked to Brent Keller, forester, about this, and, you know, his direction that you gave him was to
Yeah.
look at that, come back with a recommendation, to cut one or more
Yeah.
harvests, and he's looking at this 169 acre harvest, only because he thinks timber prices could go even higher in the future years, and we don't want to just cut it now. So it's 69 acres, it's kind of towards town side of city's property there. Salient points with this is that it's going to be open on July 20th, subject to your acceptance of putting this out. One thing different we've done in the last few years is give the contractors who found to get a better price when we have a longer lead, so they can, rather than bid, you know,
have to cut it a certain bit.
bid have to cut to the market, they can pick that anytime at the 12 months, say a whole year to, a bit more than a year in this case.
And that doesn't impact what they did, so we accept the bid, our price is set, but it gives them an opportunity to perhaps make more if.
And they'll pay a premium for that.
Sure. Yeah, and we're ready and.
So this will go out to bid in July.
Want it? Number 23 would be able to all buttoned up, pre-planned and everything else. So. There's a budget in here that talks about the expenses. It's about $25,000 for replanting, the road construction, the typical stuff we do with every sale. Any questions about this?
No, I think this is the first
Yeah.
one of these I've ever read through, so it's very educational and interesting.
Well, I thought we gave the permission to go ahead and actually put it out 1 or 2 cuts. And we're just
Bringing
now,
back a proposal, right?
that was a while ago.
It's been a while.
Yeah. Price timber's down right now, compared to what it was 3 months ago. Even 4 or 5, 6, 7 months ago. Always in May, it has a little bit of a dip. I don't know what that is. Well, no, I mean, I just wonder why I thought we discussed this last time about 4 months ago when we had this here, maybe longer.
We just got this from him.
I got it the other day.
Yeah.
The day of the meeting.
That's all I'm asking, is,
Is the timeliness of that.
yeah, the timeliness of,
Yeah, usually things go out February.
and this is one
Early
cut
March,
because he feels that the market could still keep going up.
So he's anticipating that this is just a little dip. He's anticipating.
The Fed interest rate going up, I don't think so. I don't. And the market feels, that's why I brought it up in our budget committee meeting. It wasn't just to try to show off. I just feel that,
Do you think we should wait till June?
no, I had wondered about the other cut. And it is total crapshoot. I mean, you're not gonna lose significantly, but you lose quite a bit. If you need it, especially if we wouldn't need to cut next year. But the market has hit like a 5 or 6, 7, 8 year low before. The 2007, you know, when it dropped off, 8. All the way for the next 8 years, it was cheap.
Yeah,
Right?
we're really fortunate that we're not in a position where we have to cut. We're not a
Yeah, that's-
warehouse or this, having to meet their investment dividends kind of thing. And we try to time these cuts strategically and hit the market just right. We've done a good job of it over the years. It will rise. And this is going to be one of those.
Unfortunately, the timber versus the sheet of plywood price in Home Depot doesn't match.
That is a very true statement. Yeah. You know, the one thing about leaving it stand is that volume increases about 3% per.
Yeah.
That's,
That's another reason they like to leave it as long as they can.
that is true. Yeah. We're not really harmed in any way if it doesn't get cut. So
I think.
I feel comfortable just going with what he suggested then. I mean, if there's no harm, you know, the trees can only get bigger, right? So.
Our consultant has
Well,
been
the-
very consistent of being right on the money.
The harm is that it could drop more than 3%.
Right, but we don't have to cut then.
And then the harm is it could drop 6% in 2 years.
We still don't have to
And
cut,
then-
right?
And then 9% in
You see
3
what I'm
years.
saying?
I don't know.
We
Yeah.
don't have to cut it, you know?
Yeah, but with, I just, with everything that we have going on the waterfront, I just want to make sure that this is well thought out. Reconfigure it with staff a little bit, just to make sure.
Yeah, the budget for next year does not contemplate any revenue.
Well, we don't,
From this cut.
well, yeah,
We don't-
we, yes, and we don't plan that, but I'm just saying, with all the big projects we have going on, if there was ever a roadblock. Because this took us 5 months to even get a proposal. Not a bid, I thought this was actually going out for bid. I totally misunderstood a presentation. I thought we were actually gonna come back with like 3 different contractors already giving us prices on 1 or 2 cuts, whichever would have been better. Is the way I thought we left that meeting. And I'd like to revisit it and watch that video, because that's what I swore we were going with. Whatever you think is gonna be more profitable. Put your feelers out there to the companies, ask them to bid on this, 1 or 2 sections, whichever makes the price difference. And that's where I thought we were going with this. So that's the way I understood it. I'm usually pretty clear. I'm usually pretty clear on remembering stuff. Sometimes I do make mistakes, but that's where I actually thought we were at with Keller Williams, and now seems like 5 months behind.
Well, and if that is the case, then we don't wanna wait any longer, right? We wanna make sure that we put this out today for bid.
Yes, that is true, but what I'm saying is the ask of the question was, will we get a better price if somebody had another cut to do? Because it makes it, they have to bring all their equipment, their yarders, all that stuff to our area anyhow. Unless they're a local company that wins the bid. So my question was to Brent at that point in time is if it makes sense and it's more profitable to do 2 cuts because it's a bigger project. Bigger scope of work, a little bit more money, a little bit more profit for them, a little bit more profit for us, just because of the efficiency.
And I did talk to Brent last week about
That's where I
all the
thought,
volatility in the market, and he is concerned that, this is really, just so much going on in the economy that it's really hard to predict the future. And safest course would be to do, if you have to do one now, do one now and then do another one in the future, just to. kind of-
so, but in our meeting, that was what,
I should have.
like I said, I'll clearly,
I can have him come back.
I'd like to
Another
clearly go
meeting
back and
and-
revisit that and watch that video because I know sometimes we're indecisive, but
I don't know if I have to watch the video, but I'd like to see him come back
Yeah.
and give us a report on what he found. They probably re-cruised it, and cruising that amount of timber takes some time, I know that.
I don't think it had been cruised at all. Maybe we're talking, that was an area that needed to be cruised and set up for, and this is all marked and The no cut zones,
Well, and then-
save trees and all that.
Another thing to think about is when we are cutting timber, it can be a little bit of a dramatic thing for the community. So how many times do we wanna go through that? where we're
No,
like,
it's
"Oh,
not.
you clear cutted this hill
No,
and
it's
now
it's
it's
not,
so far."
it's not traumatic.
That's what it's
Oh,
for.
I remember Salmonberry not that long ago and people were
Around the lake.
freaking out.
Around the lake,
I'm just
they
saying,
went right
so
close up to
How
the-
many times do we wanna rip
I know.
that Band-Aid off, you know?
The Band-Aid is gonna be ripped off again and again with all this SDCs and all that. No, I hear you, Congress,
I'm trying to
we're gonna
take
get a
away
lot of
some of
Band-Aids
the
ripped off.
Band-Aid.
So we're at this
No,
point,
it's
we're
painful.
at this point now, I would like to go ahead and move forward with it because we're gonna hit a
This one,
market that
yeah.
that's
And then never go
terrible.
back.
But I'm just frustrated that the way this transpired, it seems like there's always a little bit of breakdown in communication with the forester. And it seems to be a little bit slower than I would like, and I don't know, if John Walsh, if you're talking to him more than any of us, but
Yeah.
there was actually a clear and decisive backing of this council for me to move forward on this and that, with Brent Keller on this, and this is not what was discussed.
Yeah, it could be
So,
a definition. of saying,
I'm just saying that because, well, that's what our desire was.
You can come back and make another presentation.
I don't know if we should keep waiting
No, that's why I said, let's move forward with this right now.
forward and then have
Yeah,
him come
but-
back and just discuss.
It doesn't take many minutes after he leaves here that he can start cutting though. You don't really.
I don't micromanage, but I can make some phone calls to some local loggers and ask them if it's more profitable for one cut or two cuts in an area. The more acreage, the more money you pay me, or the less money you pay me. Does that depend? And what are the factors in it? Probably call out at least 3 local right now, how to do it.
When are the next cuts scheduled after this one?
So if we cut more than one right now, it puts us off.
2 years out.
Yeah.
They're every 2 years, when we think we're doing it every year, it's every 2 years.
Yeah, I think it'd be good to have written as a report. I recall that it would be a 3 to 5 year after. If we do the 2, then it'd be a 3 to 5 year break.
And the mayor's concern is that we might be in a recession at the time and it may not be as profitable.
Well, and if it takes 8 months, you're not gonna catch it. You're not gonna catch that market. If it takes 8 months to actually identify, draw a proposal, and then finally put it out for bid, you're not gonna catch any dropping market. There's no way. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, it's a foreign market that drives this. It isn't local. Totally foreign.
But
So if it's
it's
a
on the stock
recession,
market.
it's
It's on
worldwide.
the stock market.
Exactly.
Yeah, and we're the leader. We are the leader in for our area. I think there is probably a US timber versus, I know it's all global driven, but that's all, I'm just shocked at what I'm seeing, because I thought it was something different. That's why I'm not trying to stomp my feet or anything like that, and I'm okay with moving forward. I mean, we gotta get.
Well, and we don't have to accept the bid. That's the beauty of it. We can go out. We will, as a council, look at the bids, review the bids, accept them and decide if you wanna.
Yeah, that's what I
Wait
thought we
for
were
you.
looking at right now. Either 1 cut or 2 cuts. Is the way we left this meeting last time.
Well, I know, and he's saying, he's suggesting 1 cut. That's what the forester.
Well, no, I figured we'd already have prices of 3 different companies saying 600 1,000 or 571 1,000 or because that's how they go, is by 1,000 board foot per tree. They figure it out just by aerial volumes and then give you your price. You'll see it coming up.
I don't recall us coming to that conclusion in the last meeting, but I could be wrong. That's why I didn't speak up.
I want to know when the next cut would be after this. I think it is, I kind of disagree with you, Mayor. I think it's 3 to 5 years out. That's quite a what?
But okay, so we agreed to, it was a certain number of acres, though, right? That we were, or just a cut?
There was actually 3 available cuts.
3 available cuts. So,
And we said, let's take 2 of them and we'll have one for a backup.
so,
Or let's do one, because he recommended one. We said, no, let's see the price on 2. Let's see the price on 2. I totally recall this conversation and we spent quite a bit of time on it.
so,
That's what's
but
frustrating.
if we do approve this one, that doesn't mean we can't direct him to go ahead.
Lisa's got the minutes out.
Yes.
Lisa's got the minutes out and I know what was said. You want to put them up?
But the mayor said.
Yeah, can you?
Kathy will have to.
One that we would add on.
February 22nd work session.
Mayor was saying it could be 8 months out or something. before we add it.
You always ask for a new bid on the same piece of ground, get a real number. Actually, have him repeat the
February
bid
22nd to-
for 1, 2, or whatever, and whatever the price is now versus what he thought before. I think it's
Oh,
been
February
enough.
2nd. Oh, the twos.
February 2nd, yeah. It was 4 months ago. It was 4 months.
It's a hard one for me because I'm not a gambling person and it feels like we're trying to gamble.
Well,
No, it's not about gambling, it's.
We're trying to get the most money, you know, our normal process would be waiting the 3 to 5 years or.
No, my whole thing is that I would hate to see us have to mock at a project that maybe was, you know, had a little shortfall on it. So we try to borrow against it, but that's even risky too.
So it says investigate the market for both cuts. So this is the,
Sign once.
this is the one with he was here.
And return with
There
a
shows,
proposal.
So this is his proposal.
on both cuts. That's why, yeah, both cuts.
But it doesn't say to cut it. It says to investigate the market for both cuts.
Yeah.
And
So-
he's saying he doesn't think that we should sell both cuts. He's saying
He's
why.
saying, he's
That's
saying
his
what?
investigation. But we can, I mean,
I
we
would
can
hope
disagree
that,
with the
well, I would hope,
investigation.
yeah, I
That
would
sounds
hope
like.
that's right, but I will make maybe I'll just do a follow-up just because I want to know for myself. And ask 3 local loggers, was 1 cut more profitable than 2 cuts in our area? If you were to bid this.
Well, I'd like to see him here to verify his investigation and tell us why. Rather than he just, you know, I think that that's important. To have him back in here as soon as he can. We just got the recommendation from him, is that correct?
Yeah, and I had a short conversation with him. To summarize, and we looked at both cuts, and he's just heard about all the volatility of the market, what's going on in the economy, in the world. The best course of action to do that now, I'll do it. Another
Play
one,
it safe.
just watch it. And,
I don't think this should be all on the mayor's shoulders.
Is
I
there
think
anything
the
up
council
top?
should know.
Is there anything up top too? Beyond that?
I agree, Doug. I think we should hear from him, but I'm concerned about waiting 5 more months to hear from him.
Bring him in
I
here.
mean, since then, the market has dropped, like the mayor pointed out. Like,
But it will go back up, so I think Brent is doing us a solid by actually getting it ready right now to go out in July, because July it does go up again.
The
So-
bid goes out tomorrow.
it goes out, is due, if I said that
We
wrong.
have to
I
make
So
apologize.
to
that
ask him to go out and cut and start producing is different than asking him to investigate. Investigation, in his mind, there's no time limitations. If we direct him and say, hey, do this by such and such time, we want it now, then he's directed, and it needs to be from the council.
Usually when we bid, we know the acreage, the approximately how many million board feet coming off of it, the types of timber it's been cruised, how much that, like this fir, the
All the
Sawlogs, all that,
reject, all that.
maple, that kind of thing.
I personally would feel comfortable just going with what he's suggesting, at least for now, and then changing that if we need to, or adding.
Well, I think
Or, but-
62 acres is a good cut.
I just feel like that, you know, we have to kind of go with his decision, since we can't get more information right now, but we also need to move forward, I think, quickly with this.
Well, I'd like to hear what investigation means, and I think it got cruised. I think it got cruised means to figure out how many board feet are in that cut, so that they know what they're bidding on. Not acreage, but board feet.
Yeah, there's a table in here that shows that.
Yeah.
Okay.
0.6 million, I believe. All right, in the future, I will have him tune in when we do these kinds of reviews. And,
Sure. As soon as he can.
Well, I wouldn't mind a second opinion every once in a while too. We got millions of dollars worth of timber out there. Millions. You know, we're putting it out this time of year, and I don't know if we, you know, the market has dropped, and maybe putting it out 2 months from now is better. Because there's a traditional little wave dip. I think in like March, April, May, almost every year.
Well, you can show us that.
I mean, not that you're always gonna be the oracle on that, right? I mean, it's one of those type of, that. Okay, so we're gonna, I just wanna, obviously there was misunderstanding, so. Yeah,
can't rewind.
no. Thank you.
Thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, that was
Really
really
helps.
Okay, so next item on the is, we're a half hour late. You know, that's it. Update on status of dock kiosk.
We made a 2 o'clock promise.
Yep.
Is that the next thing?
Yeah.
So we have kiosk, the kiosk is fully functional, we had a meeting yesterday, the programmer came down from Seattle. Spent the better part of the afternoon going through it, getting it, there's a kind of front end, the public facing side and the back end of how that works. So the records, it's credits, that kind of thing, reports, the thing, and we're not using this kiosk in a way that tests its capabilities whatsoever. The thing has to do premium rates for weekends, it can do seasonal kinds of things, it has a lot of things, reservations, it can do a lot of really great stuff, but initially we wanted to just get it up and get it going. We've been still working with some marine board on getting a cover, small cover structure, a little shelter that goes around both of the kiosks. The electric is still gonna be its own, because it has internally switched. Most places don't have electric service that turns on, physically turns the electricity on and off on docks. Ours was not a car wash installer that was paid for with marine board funds, but it physically connects and disconnects the power. And where most of them are more of an honor system, which is turned out very well for us in the past. People obeying the regulations. So the couple loose ends, there's signage that we have signage internally that we've looked at with an inventory of where all the signs are gonna go, not just on the docks, but all the piling up and down the waterway is gonna have signs that say, including the city mortgage.
You have to pay to be here.
It's, we're trying to make it friendly, but just citing that, you know, it's not okay to tie in the poles.
Good.
And the pilings, you can't be on the wharfs, you can't anchor out in the river. I mean, there's no signs for that, but the legislative piece, code amendment has been through our city attorneys. It's finally come out, and we'll have to look at the next June 1st workshop. So that'll kind of tie a bow on it. Have another dock committee up somewhere sometime soon here. We're also looking at a professional services agreement for empowering St. Helens Marina to do the dock enforcement. So that they would have the ability to monitor police docks, issue citations, things of that nature, to help us police that. And that should help a lot. That'll get tickets on boats, we'll get tickets to whether it's the person or whether it's the vessel. And then that 72-hour violation, they'll be running through our municipal court, to see some more activity there. The fees are on the fee schedule. The advisory committee recommended a $15 fee. We had to do a market rate analysis around that to show what other boat facilities charge, and there's different ways to do it. A lot of it's by foot, some of it's by the boat, and we landed on a very this effort. It wasn't so much about revenue generating source for the city. It's more about being able to improve the boaters' experience and not have people overstaying the time they should be here. So they went for the low of $15 a boat, regardless of size. And I know there's some inequity with that.
That's $15 a day,
But it's
$15 for docking.
It's $15 a day, yes. That was on the very lowest side of the spectrum. So, in a way, if you went by foot, there was a whole lot more. $40 to $50 a day on the bigger boats. And then electricity right now is 10, and we're proposing to reduce that to 5. So if it's 15 to stay, and if you need power in your bigger boat, you need power, $5 a day for that.
Why reduce it?
Just again about just incentivizing.
Okay.
Actually, we're trying to figure out how to actually do that physically, because the kiosk.
I don't, I think it is a very inequitable. When you think about it,
Is
pull
it
my
gonna-
50-foot yacht up, I can pay $10 for electricity, I can power up everything in my boat that has water heaters to TVs to my refrigerator to everything. Versus I'm paying $15 down here a day for my little 20-foot boat that I can park 2 boats in the size of that one, who only spent $5 extra on power, and it literally, that's the only difference. This guy, and it's not right. That is just not right. And I've stated this from the start in our meeting. I think it should be 10 for a smaller boat up to like 26. Anything over 26 or even 30 should be $20 a day. That's fair. A 30-foot boat, you can fit 2 16-foot boats in where a 30-foot boat goes, because you're not going to park close to it, because that class of boat, you're not going to want to even get close to, because you could even put a dent in it, you're paying tens of thousands of dollars.
So what about rafting? Did you folks talk about rafting?
No, there was some talk about.
That's, there's rafting that goes on out there quite frequently. And every destination marina that I've gone to, there's at least 3 boats rafted.
Right.
And something that's really popular. And I see this as a popular marina. So rafting is, if there's one boat moored there, then another boat simply puts fenders between that boat and their boat and ties up to that boat, and then a third one can come along. And there's places that I've seen that have been rafted. Well, Victoria, 5 boats out, and they're all paying the same fee for the most part. The deal is that if the inside boat wants to go, it takes a lot of team collaboration to get that person out and whatever. But anyway, rafting is something that's going to happen down here without a doubt. So I hope it was talked about and looked at, just in case that without a doubt it's going to happen.
Yeah, they would be, anybody who visits the docks is going to be expected to stay, pay. The design load of the docks is, on the outside, it's 60-foot vessels tied 3 thing, so that's.
So my thought is that I understand, getting into some of these muddier issues, but with what we're trying to do is get something started so that we can enforce the docs, and then two, get someone else in place that can, figure out these little details, right? With having, the Sand Island and Marina people kind of take over and figure out more of that.
Well, we have a
That's what I-
committee, we actually have a
That's what we're trying to
committee,
do.
we have a committee that we're working with this on, and we did talk about staff coming up with the fee, and John's recommending with this, and it hasn't been brought to the committee yet. Our next meeting's in June.
The fee was talked about at the committee.
It was talked about, but it was not talked about in depth, and you were supposed to come back with a more definitive answer on that. I don't think it's very favorable for me to pay $15 versus a 30-foot or a 60-foot yacht pays $15 as well.
What I'm saying though is that you may very well be right, and that may be an issue that needs to be addressed. I'm saying I don't think that we are the correct medium to address it. I
Yeah,
think it should be passed on
Yeah.
to someone who we.
I have
Fair.
a covered moorage for a 20-foot boat that I get charged $155 a month. So that is little over $5 a day. I could probably plug in, I think, and I do have fresh water available down there. So you're basically double the price, even at $10 above that size. And then if you want power, they're getting $5 more, which is $15. I'm telling you right now, down at St. Helens Marina, I get charged, and me along with everybody else, unless you were just brand new this year, it went up 15% like he does every 2 years. Is $155 a month. We've been paying that for the last 3 years.
The objective is not to create a moorage, it's to create.
Absolutely, absolutely.
The other question is, I come.
I can pay half price down here.
But it's not to create a moorage. We want people
I
to
know.
come and stay and
Yeah,
visit.
yes, so we're twice as much, but for a 30-foot boat or even a 50-foot down there is gonna be 300 plus a month from Brad. 300 plus, probably 350 to 400 for the biggest boats down there a month.
Yeah, and I think there's.
And up here,
transient.
and up here it's gonna be right at the same price.
Now, the other question comes in, I come blasting in with my 18-foot sailboat for 3 hours. How much do I pay?
It's the same.
If they're gonna pay $10 a
So
day,
there is no transient
if they're gonna pay
Well, I'm going
$10 a day.
transient dockage to offload.
The power.
I'm gonna be here 3 hours.
To offload.
Yeah, I'm gonna be here 3 hours. I'm gonna tie you up. I've been sailing down there, gonna tie up for 3 hours. I'm gonna get myself some food, get back on my boat for, it's still $15.
You stop at Brad's. He's got food. You can unload there. He's got a parking lot. Makes a lot of sense.
This is a public dock. That's a private dock.
No, day use, there was talks,
There was definitely talk about day use and how that
yes,
works.
that was not gonna be a charge if we were down there for, I don't know, maybe there needs to be another little button on the kiosk. I'm only gonna be here for 2 hours. Free, 2 hours, but you have to.
Yeah, as I say, because
Whole thing.
a lot of people traveling up and down the
4
river.
hours, is that what we talked about?
Overnight.
I know it was something like that. We had talked about it in the committee a little bit.
He's on the committee.
Yeah, that's good.
Richard, part of it.
Who's gonna be monitoring the kiosks?
We have a camera.
The Sand Island, or the St. Helens Marina, that was part of the,
So my proposal is that we let them kind of, like I said, figure out the details and then come back to council and say, hey, here's what we found. We think there should be a separate fee for day use. We think the fee should be split up by size of boat, blah, 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 whatever they figure out. That is their area of expertise. I don't believe that the council should be making those decisions. That's my thought.
I think you're in the right place because this is an initiation to get it going.
we have done that. So
Yes.
we ordered a ad hoc committee to do this.
Have them bring it back to us.
That's what we are doing with the Portland Yacht Club, John Walsh, Art Lauskovich, Richard Mason, myself, Topaz, been involved in on it.
There's a lot of tradition of tying up on the river, which gets into this too, including the freeloaders.
So, but the kiosk is up and.
Yeah.
Operational, it's programmed at $15.
But it can be adjusted.
It can be adjusted. Everything.
Okay. That's what we gotta worry about.
Change.
What
And
about law enforcement?
So we discussed that we met with Pixley and it was kind of, few of our guys could be trained, still. And that's where all I heard from, you met with.
yeah, there's
Pixley.
a civil path, which is citations and municipal court kinds of actions. We feel pretty good about having the dock master agreement where there's fighting and crime, there's criminal sides of it. The police will come, but it's part.
Do they have enough staff to get there on time? I understand they only have 2 or 3 individuals that,
Yep.
that can, 2,
I think it's 1.5 actually. County.
the county.
The county, yeah, no, they're really limited.
We have one that's certified. We have one.
So the county can have volunteers as well, can they not?
Yep.
Marine volunteers. I see their little patch when they check my, little license, they're volunteers for either the state or the county, and I think it's the county.
Yeah, so why couldn't somebody down at the Marina be deputized and
I
they,
think, I would like to see that.
that's a good point. Like a reserve officer.
That's essentially what we're looking at as far as.
Next time your committee meets, run that by 'em.
Which is June 14th is our next meeting, 4 o'clock.
June 14th.
There's the cameras. We've worked with the Marine Board on, and actually through city county insurance, they have a risk management track, small grant program, and they're gonna help pay for, it's a $3,000 set of cameras that'll full view of the docks. It'll have a button that the public can view it on our website, so you can go look at the docks. And it's getting paid for by others, so that's great.
So we have to announce that with the signage on there, that video survey.
It'll have the appropriate size.
I think that'll be
It's
great.
not sound, it's just a picture of what's going on, and whoever's enforcing the docks will be able to remote into
Yeah.
not only the cameras, but they'll also be able to. The software for the kiosk, they can also look at to see who's registered. And all that, so they can almost do remote,
Well, it's helpful.
not remote, but just from.
Helpful for prosecuting too.
It has a backup cam for a number of days.
Okay, a review proposed changes to universal fee schedule.
Go through your highlight those.
Thank you, Rich.
Yeah. After you put them up in there.
Thank you for the bigger font. Well,
The house and some water. The highlights are the changes. Second page, that is library fines, and Brenda's in the audience waiting patiently to tell us all about why that's a great idea.
I was wondering why Brenda was here.
yeah,
Actually, I had not anticipated speaking, although I certainly can. But since I was told you were covering it, I'd be happy to talk about why it's a great idea.
Sure you can do better than that, yeah.
these were the old fees, or these are the new fees?
Children's is already like free, the rest of the group.
Yes. It's to encourage people to use the library. Because library funds are inequitable to the lower socioeconomic groups. You know, it's one thing if you're trying to afford a Lamborghini, if you have a few million in the bank, it's another if you've got 20,000 in the bank. And by the same argument, we might look at and go, well, it's 15 cents a day, what's the problem? Well, it adds up. You have a few people at home and you're all using the same library card, it adds up and it puts an unfair burden on our citizens that may be less able to afford it. Additionally, it brings in a lot of public good. We're one of the touchy-feely happy departments of the city, and the wear and tear on staff explaining fines when we want to be telling people yes, but we're telling people no because they had some trouble returning items. Over half of the public libraries in Oregon have eliminated all library fines. And Multnomah County's done it. There are 2 libraries here in Columbia County that are already doing fine-free. And one of them, Clatskanie, has said that they have actually gained over 200% in library donations because I guess you could call it a guilt fee rather than a fine fee. And so they've actually received more donations. Additionally, it costs more in staff time to collect the fines than it does than the monies that we receive. According to the State Library of Oregon, to collect a $5 fine, it would cost $5.95 in staff time, not to mention our mental wear and tear. Again, we really don't like to be yelled at in enforcing the rules, nobody does. And so by the time you're printing notices, mailing notices, or even if you're emailing the notices, but then you're having a discussion, and yet so far, the libraries that have gone fine-free, including Multnomah County, find that the items still come back. And we're just talking about the overdue fines. We are not discussing if somebody loses it, drops it in a mud puddle, forgets it on Sand Island when they've been kayaking. We're still going to charge for
Just the overdue fee.
just the overdues.
Okay.
That's it, everything else. And if you look in the proposed budget, Matt Brown has already not figured on a fine revenue from the library. That's already part of the budget. It's part of the previous 5-year plan that is sunsetting in the library or for the library this year. Our incoming library director, Suzanne Bishop, is behind this. She really hopes it gets done. I've talked with her about it. And it just makes sense to not harm people or punish people. You know, the days of punitive action encouraging returns are gone. And we need to reflect that and continue to be a welcoming place. Can't tell you a number of times I've had people come in, talk about being in library jail, or I wasn't sure if I could come back because I owe money. It's like, oh, please, you know, you're paying for us, come. We want you here. And I really believe, as do the rest of staff, that making people feel guilty for using a public facility that's public funded is not in their best interest. It's not in our best interest.
I've got a question.
Sure.
Is there any way to get that communication to them in an articulate way, which I would think that our librarians are very skilled at, without making them feel guilty, but making them aware of the costs that they could be incurring to the rest of our citizens, to the community? Is there any way to do that gracefully?
I don't know. Every time someone signs up for a library card, we do discuss that there are fines for overdue items. And They get emails, if they choose, they sign up for emails that go out 3 days ahead of a due date. And say, hi, remember this? Please bring it back, or call us to renew it, or whatever. Reduces some of the people not returning things, but quite frankly, not a whale of a lot. It really, people, I think it's better to err on the side of gratitude and people being grateful to the library and thereby the city than looking for us to hit them with a stick. I mean, we want educated or an informed.
And what I heard you saying is you're not waiving the missing or damage, you're waiving the late fee, is it?
Yeah, if you're 3 days
Yeah.
late on your book,
You're not gonna get hammered, you're gonna be reminded gently through an email or a phone call that, yes, you have.
As someone who's been in library jail, I
You have?
Oh, yeah.
we won't talk
Just
about
show
the
my
fines
face
I
in the library.
The
for a
fines you
long
collect
time.
from
That shame is
counselors
real.
and,
the library does not.
I've been in red box jail too.
We don't tell, I mean, that's part of the library. We can neither confirm nor deny who does or does not use a public library. And whether or not you own fines, that too, we do not discuss.
Can I confess to you guys like I would a priest or an attorney?
You won't get the same legal protections, but we will listen to you and we would love to see you. But we are not protected in that way. However, by state law, we cannot reveal anything about you as a library card holder, and we are very insistent.
So let me just show my card for.
I once went back trying to find a book I didn't finish and I returned and this and that and the other thing. So, hey, can you look back at what I checked out, a year or so ago? No, I mean, it's gone. So, I mean, I understand, but it's like, shucks, I don't remember the book. I can't.
Sounds like a Seinfeld episode.
And he's
So it's remarkable good at finding that red book that was on display 3 weeks ago. Yes, Councilor Morton.
So not too long ago, we had our police chief was sitting in that chair and he was telling us how the philosophy of ticketing. And I was very encouraged that they don't ticket when they feel that it really isn't a huge violation, they give a warning.
Yeah, I've gotten a few
I
warnings
really
myself.
like
Here I
that.
go again.
I left this place feeling so good. Kind of, not that I was off the hook, but just that our citizens have a way out. I appreciate that, and I appreciate you coming forward and doing the same, what you're saying.
Sure. So I just asked John, is there more? And he said, yes, there's more. So I don't know if this is just it for the library.
If I may add one more thing,
Yeah.
it is in the proposed budget for next year as a council goal to eliminate all fines on library materials. So you can start the next fiscal year with a win.
Yeah. Which win?
Thank you, Brenda.
Thanks, Brenda.
Thank you.
Thank
I
you for
appreciate your time.
Went it far better than I would have. So going through the rest of these changes, under the court, there's expungements that's been taken off of the courts. Background on why that's
State law.
state, I guess, yeah. The right-of-way fees. And you
I've heard about that.
talked earlier about that these probably aren't the correct measures, so maybe we update them if they're going there.
These aren't, no, but that was one thing that when they do approval tonight,
We're just gonna do this and then redefine it, right?
Except for the 2000.
yeah, the 2000 is an amendment to this.
Yeah. That'll be the other thing. And ask for more research on other things we discussed with Mohammed. Sure.
Is it changing the 1,500 to 2,000 on just the right of way permit or on the pavement?
It was, but we also kind of were just like, well, we could just go with what is drawn up right now. And then wait for that even to be amended down the road.
Oh, okay, so,
Yeah, so we wouldn't have to change nothing.
okay.
Okay.
That was kind of our thought process. right?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, that's fine.
It was scary how bad we are.
Yeah, so no amendments tonight.
Just one with the docs. We don't get to that.
Okay.
Couple
$10.
The committee landed on 15. I know you were dissenting, but.
He's still dissenting.
I know our residents, I know our area, 10 to 15, we're gonna hear about it, you guys, it's coming up on that season.
We're talking about pulling Band-Aids off, right?
Well,
Yeah.
When the docs are for residents, they're also for visitors.
but the
Visitors
inequity,
used to pay.
yes, the inequity of a 60-foot boat paying
Mhm.
15 and 10-foot paying $15.
But our answer is this is the beginning. So there are still things, kinks that will
I'm
be
gonna-
ironed out.
I'm gonna send it to Counselor Chilton.
Hey, no.
Nope.
We're
You don't
gonna,
see the police
Marina is
department.
gonna
You
start,
oversee the police, and that's a policing issue.
I don't even have a boat.
Rick, if you tie up downtown Portland, you get $1,000 a day,
Exactly.
but it's a little bit more than 30 feet.
Under the rec center, there is the some rental stuff out there. Shattering.
Yeah, that makes sense. Not, why would you try to nickel and dime somebody on the flat screen and a microphone?
Yeah. The docs, like we talked about earlier, was 15.
It'll say, it's gonna say,
There you go.
instead of it saying dock use registration, it's gonna be dock marge fee.
For 10 and 15
For
for
50.
anything over 30,
And it could say over.
10 and then power. If you wanna keep it down to a $20 bill for the bigger boats, but I still think 10 for the smaller boats that don't want no power is sufficient.
So.
That's fair,
expensive.
that is fair.
I didn't get that, so.
Me and John will argue later.
Don't listen to him, Kathy. That's what we're saying.
I would suggest 3 tiers. Small boats, and then a regular medium boat from whatever footage to whatever footage, and then anything over.
I know I got Art on my side, what
We
else?
actually do it per square
Two,
foot,
we wanted to do.
I mean,
two
per
tiers.
foot.
Linear foot too, we can do 50 cents a square foot.
I like that.
Linear foot, that's,
I like that as well.
50 cents a linear foot, so that'd be $10 for the 20. Okay.
a lot of docs are $1.
I like that. That's what Cat Lamet does.
And we just trust then that the folks who are then registering there are giving us the true length because they know we can.
Go out there and measure it if we want to.
Right, that Cat Lamet has a mortgage a manager that comes out and he looks at your boat, he looks at anything overhanging on the bow. And I know that I had a raft
That's
on
really
the
just
back end.
suggested. It's-
Oh, that'd be that's 5 feet
The
more.
the trailing raft would be.
No, it was on davits and it was hanging over.
Hanging on, oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
You can't,
And that's,
Oh, anyway.
that's 5 feet more. Yeah, it's just all of a sudden it went up to all like.
Cents a foot.
Yeah.
And also, the thing about this fee is, not to try to make money off people, but it also helps create an atmosphere, allows people to police it and not have it out of control, because there's foul language is prohibited in our new ordinances, disruptive music later, or even in the day, if it meets disorderly conduct.
So, yeah.
disorderly music,
Yeah.
sometimes what's being played up in the park should be disorderly.
Well, this is not the park, this is the docks. We
No,
can.
yeah.
Using 60 feet of
Okay.
dock, it should.
Let's go ahead and take our 10-minute break, and then we'll have John give us an update after our 10-minute break, okay? So we'll go ahead and recess till 3:10.
Talk about docs,
Reach out for my
doc fees
friend.
more.
Yeah. Well, that was all universal fee, right? We
Delegate.
covered this.
Yeah, but we didn't.
Delegate.
Was there more?
Council should be focusing on other things, but that's fine. Why not?
Looks like babies.
She's bossy, can you tell?
Well, you know,
that might look like.
Sandy Mayor.
Not a friend.
Okay, welcome back,
I think so.
and just so, for clarification for staff, we would like to keep it to 15 right now, so we can get the kiosk going.
Okay.
So, in our universal study that we're adopting tonight, we're gonna keep that, for staff, you can start enforcing it, but we will be updating that. So don't put too much signage on it. Then you can start.
Things that can't be changed easily.
We'll have more in our next
Yeah.
responsible voters committee meeting.
But that'll at least get us an opportunity to start and why it's there, so. All right, so
You could charge, start off with the first month with no fee, but you gotta get your sticker. So people know to go to the thing.
Yeah.
And, hey, prices are coming.
well, we're just gonna keep it, that's what was the whole point, was just to keep it, so we could start on everything, so. And not amend. Okay, so, we clarified that for you, John. Now we're gonna go ahead and get your report, so fire away.
All right, I don't have a whole lot, just other than a reminder at 5:30, we had the public hearing on the vote, and that the reason we have, that requires a public hearing is because it's used property in an amount over $50,000. Under that is subject to the administrator's discretion and for our purchasing rules.
Yep.
Part of that analysis is to consider the life cycle cost of the investment. We're buying a boat and talk about that tonight, but and then at 6 o'clock, we're doing developer deliberations, and that would be from 6 to 7. We're gonna go through, kind of review where we're at, what our options are, talk about the development pros we heard, what we didn't, and go through that. But most of what I want to talk about is that just coming out of this budget committee process is that the city has a fair amount of money sitting in its accounts, that a lot of it borrowed money from public safety for the fund, and it's sitting in the state pool earning 0.6%. There's no return on that investment. So years past, we've gotten into when we have longer term investments, capital projects that aren't gonna be done for a while that we're saving for, we'll go into the bond market or some other outside limited investments that the city can get into. And right now, bond market, 1, 2, 3, 5, whatever the years is around 3%, or three up almost 3.6%, which is a lot better than 0.6%. So what we'd like to come back to you with is a policy that keeps the city liquid enough that we can, the timing of some of these projects that we're doing, maybe a 1 year or a 2 year bond, maybe another one that's a little farther out, roll some of that money, get it earning interest so that it's offsetting the cost. That interest revenue comes into our general fund in a favorable way to help the programs, not just go to interest expense bond. And right now, our policy is anywhere from financial policy, investment policy is anywhere from 1 to 5 million. It talks about as a sweet spot of how much money to have out there. Not sure why that was. It could be amended to be more, particularly that we have $30-some thousand, $1 million out there just sitting in the pool. Just wanted to plant that seed with you and.
Do we have any state laws that say you can't do it, can't invest?
Full tabs.
There's actually some states you can't take money out of your.
Yeah, it's all governed by this. Our fiscal policy mirrors this Oregon State investment policy.
Okay, but you're allowed to do it then.
You're allowed to do limited investments in bonds or treasury bills, that kind of stuff. It's really
Secure.
really secure. And it usually gets not as good rates, but
But it's secure.
right now, where it's at, the bond market's pretty strong.
Coming up, it's gonna go up even more in July. Half a point.
Can I comment on that? Sure. And I'd just like to let the council to know that when I first sat on council, that we had our finance director give a report, a monthly report on our assets, where the shifts have happened, because there were a lot of shifting of funds. A financial report on a monthly basis. It was every other council meeting. The finance director came down and gave us on paper, a financial report of city funds and sat in through the meeting. Then when she retired, we didn't require that time. John Walsh, who replaced her. John Walsh. John, what was his last name?
Ellis.
John Ellis. When he was replaced, we didn't require him at the meetings, but we did require some reporting, and I think it went to quarterly. But I'm not certain. But the monthly reports were I think were, in terms of the council, answered so many questions about what finances were on a monthly basis. I really appreciated that. And I miss that. I miss that a whole lot when it comes to where's our finances. So I'd like to see that initiated at some time, and just for new council, for the newer council members, just a bit of reference to possibly think about that. Something more for our finance director to do, but it certainly helps the council, I believe.
So you want to reverse our policy that we just set like about 9 months ago, where we went through biannual reporting to make it more efficient for people? That's why he's not sitting here, financial director.
I don't think that he needs to be here, and John Ellis was not here. He was at times when he was asked to be here, but something on paper is always, to me, was so beneficial. And mostly of where funds have been shifted and where the interest rates are, where everything is financially. That is our most important job on the council, is to make certain that we
Fiscally responsible.
Exactly.
Yep, I would agree with you 100%. And I think that's why John's bringing that interest rate to us, as far as thinking what the paper put out, $87 million. I'm like, what? No, that's not exactly true. Because 30 of it, 15 and 15 for waterfront, 15 for police station, big difference there. I was like, oh my God. Yeah, it is the budget. It is the budget, but it was like, oh my gosh, come on, I mean, big bold black print. It's like.
I guess my main point is that interest used to be a pretty formidable income. Kansas City used to make a lot of money on interest, and when you had bigger, banked a lot of money and just kept a lot of money in the bank and kept that long-term hold money. This is not get more return on our investment. We've all, on the other side of that, all of the debt that we've had, we really did, in my view, we did a fantastic job of getting our interest, our debt down to refinance and save millions of dollars in interest over the next few years.
Well, at one time, handling money without the computer was so laborious, even banks didn't do it, and now you can do it over the weekend. So.
I can hear what Dr. Morton is proposing, and I do think that with the miscommunication in the community about funds and like flows and funds and how those are being spent, I think that it would allow for a little bit more transparency with budget and how we're being financially responsible and how money is allocated just a little bit more frequently. That doesn't necessarily I don't necessarily think our finance director needs to be present at every meeting, but I think a little bit more frequently checks and balances would allow for the transparency in the community.
Well, not only that, that's the way I have always balanced my checkbook, and that's the way you have. we do monthly bills and monthly things, and we look at our finances that way personally. And I guess when I got on, I would imagine when I got on council, that that's the way it was done as well. We get statements and we'd look at things, when we catch certain things and talk about certain things. That isn't happening now. It happens all kind of at the budget meeting or possibly at the quarterly reports. And sometimes those quarterly reports, they just kind of go over everyone's head and you forgot about that. But anyway.
Yeah, I did misspeak, they are quarterly, not biannual.
Well, it is biannual, I'm saying do it
So
quarterly.
quarterly.
But biannual, we're asking. Formal report.
So just because finances are so big, I'm okay with doing that quarterly, you know, going quarterly in the finances. That doubles anybody else. And then if you have any questions in between now and then, and John is working very intently with, I could tell you that right now. I mean, John, our city administrator, is very driven around finances and making it work, and we meet with Matt regularly on that, so be assured that.
You as a council need the information, you know, talk about it, should know to share it.
Yes.
It's public information.
Yes.
Yeah, because like right now, maybe we should have them come down soon, because I mean, not 87 million, looks like, you know, people are like, they cannot. Wait till we start having these, and actually, I don't think it's really the right time. I think after we get our rate study, we might need it every other.
Maybe more frequently.
Yeah, yes, because after our rate study in July.
It's really, it's difficult to talk about when you sit here and have a room full of people objecting a single position in the budget of, you know, it's in saying the city doesn't have the funds long-term to support those versus capital projects are needing to be done, and it's investments in the loans and how the urban renewal agency interfaces with all that.
Yes,
It's a lot of variables.
I know on one board I'm sitting on, it's like, every time we have a board meeting, which is once a month, we have a financial report. We have 6 pages of finances and of all the various departments. Everyone looks at that. Everyone studies that. Finance person will make recommendations to switch funds and that kind of thing. It's so helpful, and you get a bigger picture all the time. You're reminded of every cent, in a sense, of what's in the budget. And it isn't $87 million that I'm talking about. It's but it is over $1 million, and that helps a lot. I just have to put that in.
yeah, no, I guess I'm just guilty of understanding finances kind of a little bit better than some, and so I don't need that extra attention, you know, I just know what to ask and what to ask and what I'm looking at, and when I seen that 87 million, I was like, yeah, right. You know, I mean, we wish we could do that every year, even though it is what we adopted. It's not, that's not what we, you know, we have to have it there in order to spend it.
Don't believe anything about that fixed in. There are so many variables.
So I think, yes, I think foreign options is definitely.
Get that money working.
2% is pretty good.
Great.
Yeah.
I have one
But
more topic I was
0.6.
hoping to ask John about, which is something that, you know, we have addressed in the past, but hopefully bringing it back up to the surface where we're able to talk about it again, is policing Sand Island and how we're gonna problem solve that. I do anticipate that is something that's gonna come up. I've received some phone calls, and people are concerned about, you know, the purchase of a boat and how we're going to, you know, that's a problem that we haven't really solved, is how are we gonna police Sand Island?
We actually
What's our
have, so this one meets qualifications for policing because of sides, and there's a whole number of things that.
Well, it's not the
As
boat
far as
itself, it's
transport,
bringing
yeah,
people on
it's
the
transport.
island and increasing the amount of people on the island, and how are we gonna be solution focused as far as if there is an incident on the island, how are we gonna get there to respond?
Ask E2C to have some security there for their events, because that's who would be running it.
And that's a possible thing, so
Yeah.
maybe putting it on an agenda soon
Yep.
as another way for us to revisit
Yeah,
it
when the
and
cities have
look
city
at-
events over there, there'll be security.
summer's coming
But-
up,
but
the
in
island's
general-
gonna be full, it's gonna come up again.
It's a complex issue.
I know it is,
We
yeah.
have to, I mean, like Doug said, I would, weeks a minute if I had the opportunity to do that.
Yeah, it is a complex issue, that's why I don't want it to be forgotten about, because it is something that I feel like we need to be focused on. I know we have a lot of other things going on, but if, we don't wanna wait until a really bad incident happens on the island, and then we're like, oh my gosh.
That's
no
right.
one
Already
really-
happened,
Well,
I
and that,
know,
and that's
it's
it.
probably gonna happen again with the amount of people.
without a doubt, but they are so far down compared to what they were before the privatized management came in and utilized that area for camping. That helped a ton. And it seems to have that they have a person on that island helps immensely. I just think that we made huge jumps in terms of getting rid of the homeless camps that were over there. The amount of thievery that was going on when they would canoe over to the marina. A lot of that is,
Motors.
a lot of that, I had a lot of stuff missing on my boat, like 2 times. And my bimini top and canvas was ripped off. I mean, there was a bit rifled through the
Totally
boat.
agree with you. Everything you said.
So it is on the upswing, but we do need more, and I do agree with that. We do need,
I just don't want us to forget about
And
it,
most
because
of the
it is
time-
something that we.
Most of the time when
address.
somebody shows up in uniform, it's just them showing up and de-escalating that actually, are we good here? Am I gonna be able to leave? Am I gonna have to come back? And they don't have to come back. You know, it's just that can de-escalate it enough to make everybody shake hands, say, you know, we're all here to have a good time. I'm sorry I got so passionate.
Yeah,
You need that mediator, and a camp host is not, you know, not in uniform. That uniform comes with a lot of respect.
So, I hear Council Chilton saying getting ahead of it is
Yes.
part of any plan for events, that would be addressed. And that we would be able to refer to the plan. If the people do ask us, we could say, here is the plan, and we could refer to John, Tina, I don't know, but it's there in black and white. That we have looked at it, we considered it, and these are what we're hoping, planning to do.
Well, real enforcement actually only comes from an officer, even with the kiosk and getting the St. Island people in charge. The real true enforcement only comes from an officer, and we don't have a lot of backing. Nobody really wanted to stick their neck out. Honestly, if I'm being completely honest with you, council, our police department is not stepping up. They have an
Well, they
IGA,
don't
well,
feel-
I
they
know
have
that,
their
but
reasoning
I will,
for that,
I will
yeah.
talk to them, I would talk to them, tell them blue in the face about it, because they have an IGA with the county, there's boats available down there. But that's neither here nor there. We also have the county saying, well, we don't have the funding. We have
Right.
one guy who can't, you know, we can't just say we'll commit to it, because we don't know that we can. We can't. There's one guy full-time and then another part-time. We can't just say, well, absolutely gonna police for you. And we're spending a lot of money in policing.
So-
I just want to, you know, I mean, we're also paying 1/4 of the county services too.
But yeah, and I'm not saying, Mayor, that we're saying in this plan that we are going to, that we're going to provide all that. I mean, can't promise
Yeah, I
anything.
just wanna
We
make
can't
sure.
promise, but we should be able
That's
to
all.
state what we do intend to do and how, in view of those limitations.
Yes.
But just that we're not just sitting back and throwing up our hands.
Okay, I just
Hoping
wanna make,
nothing
I just wanna make
happens.
sure nobody here is making a promise that we can't
No.
keep.
No, I
think
know, that's why
good.
I'm saying we need to bring it back to the
Because
table at
it's
some
not
point and
there,
discuss it again, so we can try to come to a resolution about it.
Remember we had a character down here,
Our
he was
part.
about 6'4", weighed about 3 pounds. We used to have a name, said security guard on it, And just his presence calmed a lot of stuff down.
Exactly.
And maybe that's a solution, that's what I'm saying, so maybe I'm asking that we
Stroke, it killed me.
readdress the situation,
Right.
summer's
He did a
coming.
lot of calming
Island's
down,
gonna
just
be
being.
active, it's gonna be,
Yeah.
we're gonna hear about it more.
Oh, I want to tell you one other thing that has really helped our staff, our park staff, incredibly, because they would take that barge over to Sand Island and bring back thousands of pounds of litter and garbage every
No,
weekend.
everything
And
you said
Memorial
was
Day
right
and
on.
Fourth of
It was a
July
good move.
was, it costs the city so much in terms of, in terms of personnel and just in terms of expenses. And that's helped out a whole lot.
And I think we're on the right track, I just wanna
Yeah, we
make
are.
sure that we're continuing down there, we're not stagnant, we're
Yes.
addressing that this is a concern, the city understands that this is a concern, and we're trying to come to a resolution.
I went over there
People safe on
7
Sand
years
Island.
ago, and on that back side, up in the edge of the trees, was a tent. And it wasn't even, at the time, not even fishing season, but there was a fishing rod into the line. So I'm thinking somebody was there, I'm like, and it was on the back side of the island, I
Right.
docked my boat and was walking the island. And I kind of felt even a little freaked out, I'm a pretty big guy, and I was like, what is coming up on an encampment 7 years ago? So I'd agree with you that it has changed a lot, there's pop cans all over the blackberry bushes everywhere,
Diapers.
yeah.
Now, there's one group over there that you gotta watch out for.
Yep.
Cause one day my daughter was camping over there with my granddaughter, and the fishermen cleaned up and everything was in the garbage can. Next morning was all over, between the raccoons and the crows, they had literally emptied a 50-gallon drum and it just. You gotta keep after it, but you gotta get after everything, it was amazing. But at that time, remember, we used to have problems with people coming off the river, breaking into boats.
Like I said, I think we're on the right track, I just wanna resurface
Good
it
point.
and keep making sure that our citizens know that this is something we haven't forgot about and we care about it.
I kind of think the presence of people who are over there really enjoying themselves and cleaning up after themselves and doing those kinds of things makes a difference. And that's one of the reasons that I was so supportive of tourism, buying a boat and going over and doing what they're doing. I think all of that is really going to help. It isn't going to detract. It's going to help the livability of that island. I just do. Matter of fact, I know it. It's gonna happen.
Didn't mean to derail, I just
What
wanted
else
to
you
bring
got?
that
No
up
problem.
and just hope that we could bring it up in the future.
What else you got for your report?
Oh, that was it.
Okay. Do we have an executive session? No, okay,
Gotta be back in 2 hours, so.
yep, we have to be back at 5:30,
5:30, not 6:30.
5:30 and then 6 o'clock for the deliberation of our RFQ. So,
When you come back, the room's gonna be set up in a circle down here for the whole,
yep,
for both the hearing and
okay.
maybe the meeting if we can.